Hello and welcome back to the Embrace the Mud podcast. Today, we're delving into a topic that I would consider like the North Star that's guiding your relationships. We're going to be discussing how to become more self-loving. Now, while you don't need to be a self-love guru in order to be in a relationship, loving yourself enough is like the key to creating a healthy and fulfilling one. So let's embark on this journey together and uncover the 3 pillars of a self-loving relationship. You are listening to the Embrace the Mud podcast, where we discuss all things related to healthy, joyful, and life-giving relationships. Why focus on relationships? Because the quality of our intimate partnerships and close connections influences our health, happiness, and longevity more than anything else in our lives. Relationships matter a lot. So together, let's jump into the mud, aka our messy relationships, pull some weeds, plant some seeds, and create an enriching environment where strong relationships can take root. I am your grateful host, Dara Posner. I am a relational disaster working toward relational mastery. I am also a positive psychology coach, a relational mindset coach, a blogger, and now a podcaster. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Embrace the Mud podcast, where we discuss all things related to healthy, joyful, life-giving relationships. If you are a fan of this podcast, please subscribe, follow, like, review, and share. Your engagement in this way is crucial to the success of the podcast, and I appreciate you taking just a few seconds to support my mission, which is to help people like you flourish in life and love. I am so excited to be talking about self-love on the podcast today. This topic for me is really just so near and dear to my heart because this really has just been an area of struggle for me for most of my life. I can think back on my years as a teenager and as a young adult, all the way through my 20s, really, where I could just remember struggling immensely with my relationship with myself, feeling really self-conscious all the time, to the point where I honestly had a hard time like having fun and enjoying my life and being really present. I was always comparing myself to other people, feeling inadequate, feeling unworthy and unlovable. And it really just was such a brutal existence. And one of the best things I've ever done for myself that has completely changed me and how I experience myself and my life, and also has dramatically altered the direction of my life, was really paying attention to this. Really paying attention to my relationship with myself, getting clear on what I wanted it to look like and feel like, and just becoming really devoted to working through my struggles around unworthiness and my disbelief in myself and other aspects that played into just a low level of self-love that I had for myself. So I've learned a lot. And so I love to talk about self-love. I feel like this is an area now where I'm really strong and capable. And I find it such an honor to be able to guide other people in cultivating a more self-loving relationship with themselves. So as we dive into what I mentioned in the intro, being the 3 pillars of self-love, I really just want to establish this first. And that is that self-love is not about perfection in any way, shape, or form. It's not about having it all figured out. It's not even about being like fully self-loving and never experiencing dips in your self-esteem or doubts about yourself or anything like that. No, it's really about recognizing your worth, your innate self-worth, and taking steps and actions in your life to prioritize yourself, your happiness, and your own well-being. So let's go ahead and dive into our first pillar of self-love, which is self-awareness. To me, self-awareness is, first of all, a decision that you are going to be deliberate about exploring yourself and discovering yourself as fully as possible. This is, cultivating the willingness to dive into your own thoughts, your own feelings, your own behaviors and actions, especially those patterned ones. Self-awareness allows you to understand your own values, your own desires, your own strengths, your needs, and even your fears. The second pillar of self-love is self-acceptance. This is the act of lovingly embracing all aspects of yourself, everything that you see as you do that self-discovery, as you look at yourself and you explore yourself. You can lovingly embrace your own strengths and your own weaknesses, your quirks, your flaws, your gifts, your talents, your imperfections, everything. Self-acceptance is the cornerstone of self-love because it says, I am enough just as I am right here and right now, which to me is so, so powerful. And our third pillar of self-love is self-care. And this involves taking deliberate actions to prioritize your own well-being on every dimension: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And I always like to remind everyone that self-care is never selfish. It is essential. And as we're talking about self-care, and because we're really on the Embrace the Mode podcast focusing on relationships, I want to highlight one major aspect of self-care, and that is boundaries. As I've mentioned before, boundaries are like the protective walls around your castle. Setting and maintaining healthy boundaries is an essential form of self-care. It's saying yes to the things that are aligned with your well-being and no to anything that isn't aligned with what's best for you. Something I just think is so beautiful about the cultivation of self-love is that it's not a destination, it's a journey. It's an ongoing process that lasts an entire lifetime. And it's cultivated as you learn about yourself. So you have to make that decision. I'm going to become an expert on myself and begin to learn about myself and investigate and explore myself. And then as you discover different things, the next part is about acceptance, accepting all of who you are without pushing anything away or rejecting anything or denying anything that you find. And lastly, it's about taking action toward your own happiness and your own well-being. Now, here is an additional aspect. I can throw in another pillar, but really it's just another thing to consider when you are cultivating self-love and you're on a deliberate journey here. And that is, and I wish that we talked about this more in our culture, it's not a solo endeavor. I think a lot of times we're given this impression that we can, like it's possible to go off into your own little corner of the world and work on loving yourself. And then you can come out and join the rest of the world and be in relationship. It's that whole idea, right? You have to love yourself first before you can be in relationship. And as we've established here on this podcast a couple of times now, that's not necessarily true. Does it help to have a measure of self-love, though, so that you can cultivate a healthy relationship and choose well? Absolutely. But the key here to remember is that, cultivating self-love requires you to allow yourself to be properly loved by others. When you allow other people to love you well, you learn how to love yourself and others at the same time. It's like a beautiful dance of giving and receiving. So as we wrap things up for today, I just want to reiterate that becoming more self-loving is a journey, and it's a journey really worth embarking on. Remember that it's not about perfection, but you do have to love yourself enough to be able to create healthy relationships with others. By embracing the 3 pillars, self-awareness, self-acceptance, and self-care, you pave the way for a life filled with love, joy, and healthy, meaningful connections. As you reflect on, this episode on self-love, and if you recognize that you struggle in this area, that you have a really, really hard time prioritizing your own well-being, creating space in your life to really do that self-exploration, or that you have a really difficult time accepting aspects of who you are, maybe coaching would be something that could be helpful for you. I love to work with people around self-love. So if that sounds like something you'd want to consider, head over to my website, mudcoaching.com. You can read about a little bit about me, what I do, who I work with, how I do it. And if it feels like a good fit, click that contact button, fill out the form, and I'll send you a reply very, very soon. Until next time, I invite you to keep nurturing your self-love, setting those healthy boundaries, filling your life with love from within and from other people. I'll be back here very, very soon with another episode. Until then, please remember, you are wired for love and connection. You are capable of love and connection. You are worthy of love and connection. I'll see you soon.